May I tell you about Shazam?
I like the first Shazam, especially because it was coming during that time, like right after Batman versus Superman or whatever. So it was like fine. It was like, oh, okay, it's a better tone. It seemed to hold together. I like that the director guy had like a couple like YouTube videos, right, where he's like talking about behind the scenes stuff, which was pretty cool.
And for months, you look at this shot over and over, scrutinizing every pixel around Shazam, and you're so focused on that you don't notice until way too late that there are crew members still in the shot standing around.
And he's got this whole YouTube channel about filmmaking, and all of the videos are worth your time, in my opinion. Some of them are about DIY filmmaking techniques and equipment. Some of them are about like, hey, like looking at the first Shazam movie, like I want to tell you about one of our shooting days where we didn't have, like we had scheduling problems with the cast. And so that's why things are blocked out the way they are. It's because of the scheduling. And these are the kind of puzzles we have to solve on a film set. Fucking love this stuff. Write a book. I'll read it. I just love filmmaking content. I miss it, actually.
Now, who directed this one?
Same guy. David Sandberg.
Same guy? Oh, yeah. Okay, great. Well,
it's kind of like James Gunn's The Suicide Squad in as much as, yeah, they had the Snyderverse. Yeah, they were trying to connect everything, but they kind of, after the failure of the Justice League, they kind of gave up with like trying to have a consistent tone. And they were like, sure, Henry Cavill's still our Superman, but we don't know if he'll ever return. So we better shoot him from the waist down or whatever from now on. Yeah. We'll let the movies be whatever. We'll make Joker. We'll make Shazam, even if it has nothing to do with the Snyderverse. We'll make Peacemaker. You know, there was like that period of just, I don't know what to do. Just make cool movies. Their new modus operandi for a little while was we're going to be like directors first. So like, you know, we just want to find interesting directors who have interesting takes.
Yeah, the Batman very much feels of that, yeah.
Yes, exact same thing. Where it's like, because Affleck didn't want anything to do with it ultimately, and they had Matt Reeves on the hook to make a Batman movie, they were like, are we really going to let Matt Reeves not make a Batman movie? I mean, I want to see Matt Reeves' Batman movie. Let's just do it. For those who didn't see the first Shazam, you know, it's based on the comic book character who's also named Captain Marvel in the DC comics. But of course they don't have that name in the movies, so they just, the thing that he calls out to get his powers, Shazam, that's just going to be his superhero name, which they make, there's a ongoing joke about that in this movie where he's like, I'm still trying to figure out what my superhero name is. And at one point they suggest Captain Marvel, but at the end of the movie, he's like, I'm going to tell you what your superhero name is. It's Shazam. And the whole idea in the first one was this foster kid who, you know, I think in that movie was maybe like 14, 15, you know, becomes this mythical champion accidentally in a kind of Spider-Man-ish type of way, where when he yells Shazam, he becomes this big hulking Zachary Levi superhero, you know, almost like a parody of a superhero. But in personality, he's entirely still a teenager. I love like Freaky Friday type stuff where like one character, you know, an actor has to be somebody else in different skin.
And he like goes and he can like buy beer and stuff.
Yeah, so it's all those kinds of jokes, but it works. And then by the end of the movie, spoilers, there's like these other foster kids, this foster family he's been living with, and they all get powers too, which is a really cool moment in that movie because you really don't see it coming. At least I didn't see it coming. Like they just would all get to be Shazam, you know? So they all get to be kind of these like grown-up, buff, hot people, all while still acting like themselves. It's just inherently good. Just foundationally, that's fun. So this movie sees Helen Mirren and Lucy Liu as these kind of like goddess characters who are after Shazam. They try to imprison, there's the wizard from, you know, the guy who, I think he was in like that movie Blood Diamond with Leonardo DiCaprio where Leo has like a South African accent.
Right.
And in Guardians, he goes, who?
Who?
Star-Lord. Who? Star-Lord, man.
He plays the wizard in this, and he has there's a couple of really funny moments with him. Like there's one where, again, spoiler, the whole thing is spoilers. I hope you don't mind by now. Nobody saw the movie. Nobody's going to see the movie. They have to, as like their grown-up selves, they all have to reveal to their foster parents who they are. And they kind of run in. They're just like, well, there's no time. Just, we need to tell you we're all superheroes. And the wizard is with him. You know, he's like, you know, this hobbling wizard. He's got his big staff. And he just puts his one hand up and he goes, wizard? Like just points at himself like, also a wizard?
We're superheroes.
I'm gay.
Yeah, we know, bud.
And you?
Yeah?
Yeah. Oh.
I'm the wizard.
There's a female lead. She is kind of like a villain turned hero. And I was like, who is that? I've seen her a million times. You know who it is? It's Rachel Zegler. Is that her name?
Oh,
Weird.
it's like I've seen her in thumbnails doing weird.
Weird. She's in this.
Weird.
She plays like the love interest of Freddy. Turns out she's in cahoots with the goddesses. And by the way, the movie was made for like 115 mil, which, by today's standards is one of the lower budgets for something like this. Obviously, they took a bath. This thing made no money. You can tell that like a real filmmaker made the movie because like the budget's all on screen. Like the action sequences, the big moments, they all work. And even when the CG is not polished, like it's kind of like remember with the Flash, we said this too, where you kind of know what they're trying to make, Yeah. And again, the characters and story, I think, carry you through most of that. Yeah, there's this, they find this kind of this like magical parchment and pen that's named Steve. And it can take notes for them, like as gods, they can tell it what to write. But much like text to speech to text, anything that they say automatically gets written. And they have to be like, no, don't write that part. So they kind of set up that joke. And then finally, like this eagle takes the letter to Helen Mirren to tell them, like, this is them trying to barter with her and say, like, we don't need any violence. Like, we'd like to call this off now. But she reads the letter aloud. And she's like, we don't want any violence. Oh, that's really good. We should keep that. All right, I think we did a good job. Do you think it will work? I don't know. Who wants a Gatorade? I'll have one if it's red. It's really good. And just Helen Mirren like sitting in this like Roman hall, in the sky, like reading the stupid thing that these teenagers tried to piece together.
We'll give up our powers if you give us Freddy, Ad unharmed. Otherwise, they're gonna monkey's paw you. Smart, Eugene. Steve, Ad unharmed.
One of the narrative problems with obviously the exciting thing in the first movie is that they all become heroes. In this, it's a little bit of a problem because now you're balancing like 5 or 6 main characters instead of just Shazam himself. And so, like any good movie, it figures out a way to kind of revoke all of them of their powers, and it's kind of left to him in the end. He becomes the central main character all over again. And they have like a background thing with him where he's about to age out of the foster program, and he's worried that his foster parents are like they're going to want him to move out right away, and so there's like an insecurity thing. It's typical movie stuff, but it actually works because the performances work. All of their superhero selves are quite hot. Like they're all like, these are very attractive people, which it just makes for a really nice, like, sometimes you're just watching like kids and teens, and then suddenly they're these, overgrown, models basically. And I don't know, it makes it funny, and it also makes it like appealing. Or like, oh, I get to watch like hot superheroes in like goofy costumes. As I was watching it, it also occurred to me, I was like, oh yeah, Black Adam's supposed to be tied into this.
Right, yeah. There's
oh no, this is much better than Black Adam, which sucks balls.
They look alive to me.
Because I saved them.
Well, that's why I waited until you were there. I got the information I needed. No one died. I did it your way.
One other joke that I loved was like, it was again, big spoiler. He fights this dragon in the end that was like sent from these like evil gods. He defeats it. He dies. They find he's turned back into his teen self. He's a corpse. They pick him. It's absolutely catastrophic. Everybody's devastated. They take him, they bury him. They put like a photo of the whole family on the grave, And earlier in the movie, he was on a date as his superhero self with Wonder Woman, but they never show her from the waist up, or from the neck up, I should say. Gal Gadot walks in. Turns out, like, their power comes from Zeus or whatever, and that's her dad. And so she's able to, like, with the power of the wizard staff and stuff, she's able to resurrect him. And he like pushes a hand out of the dirt, and they're all like, ah! It's like he's a zombie. And he crawls out. He's like, oh, what the hell? He's still Zachary Levi, but he's like a teenager. He's like, what the? He's like, you guys buried me after like 2 seconds? And he tries to hit on Wonder Woman, and, there's like a spider in his teeth. And he's like, oh my God, that's so gross. And he's chuckling to himself. It's really very charming. And he's like, all right, guys. And he's standing next to the wizard who still has the staff. And he goes, who wants their powers back? There's like a pregnant pause. He turns to the wizard and he goes, we can do that, right? And the wizard goes, yeah. The whole thing was just the timing was really good.
Hey, who wants their powers back? We can do that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, good.
But there is an after credit sequence, and that after credit sequence stars James Gunn's wife.
Oh, baby.
They squeezed her into Black Adam too.
They were trying to do something before they scrapped the whole thing.
Right. Right. Or yeah, when James Gunn was still making movies that technically took place in the Snyderverse, but he's still saying that that Peacemaker is going to be a real thing in this.
So Peacemaker season 1 is the Zack Snyder continuity, and Peacemaker season 2 is his continuity.
Oh, is that what he said?
I think so. That's what he said.
Well, that would at least make some sense.
But I don't know. Like, how can you have 2 seasons of a television show that take place in 2 different universes? I don't know. I guess we'll find out.
And they very much have her doing her shtick where she's like, what does that even mean? Yeah.
She's like very no nonsense. Her forearms are flailing around, and
she's a dancer professionally. She finds him, and he's like he's in the woods, like using his electricity to like knock over cans, which I'm like, this doesn't really make sense that he would be doing this. Like after, like he's been living with these powers for a while, but fine. And she's like, we want you to be part of the Justice. And he's like, Justice League? I've been waiting for you to ask. She's like, no, Justice Society. And he's like, okay, well, is that the same thing? Because it has justice in it. And she goes, no, they're different because they're different words. And that's how words work.
Oh, God.
Like, wow, who wrote this? Your fucking husband?
Yeah, man, I prefer Jenna Fisher.
Yes. I agree.
How does this compare to Blue Beetle and Aquaman 2?
This is a lot better. Holy shit. I mean, it's not going to go down as one of the greats or anything, but like I would totally rewatch this again, or at least scenes from it. Remember we were saying last time, a lot of times like a litmus test for a good movie is, do you want to go revisit any part of it? It's like I would totally happily revisit moments from this movie. This movie has like a coherent like sense of itself. Blue Beetle is so unremarkably like 2000s superhero, but then I was trying to think, I was like, well, what's the most generic superhero movie I can think of to compare it to? And I was struggling because I was like, well, like I would say the Fantastic Four 2004 one or whatever, 2005. That's better than Blue Beetle. It's not Daredevil. Yeah. Daredevil's too fucking weird. I don't know. Like it might be uniquely one of the most vanilla movies I've ever seen.
Yeah, because those early 2000s movies, I mean, they're definitely cheesy and of the time, but they're memorable.
And they often have like some semblance of story, between the streaming boom and COVID. Everybody all at once forgot who are these two people? Why are they fighting? Why should I pay to see it? Like all of a sudden everybody became like incompetent with storytelling. If it's because like they can't find enough CG artists to finish these things, fair enough. That would mean you'd have decent movies with bad CG, but that's not what we're seeing.
That's not what we're seeing. I do wonder if it's just if it just is like the talent just isn't there because they're doing other things.
They quit.
They quit. They have YouTube channels. They're streaming.
Well, we know that Andres Muschietti, the guy who directed The Flash, he directed the It movies. He's going to be directing the Batman movie for James Gunn, the new one with Damian Wayne or whatever. Right. That's pretty cool that he's like, all right, like your movie didn't work out in the old continuity, but that doesn't make you a bad director. Come direct some good movies for me. Hopefully they do that with David Sandberg, because I think this guy he's like I'm actually really quite into him because he doesn't. He's not the Russos. You couldn't point him at the Avengers and expect to get something all that great, but he makes you a damn fine Shazam movie. So I downright recommend Shazam: Fury of the Gods. I think it's funny. I think it's cute. I think it's like the villains are not stupid. They seem generic at first, but they actually do fun things with the villains throughout. All of the characters get an arc. The comedy's good. All the casting's good, from the kids to the grown-ups. I can't complain too much about this movie, honestly. It reminds me of our Oscars days. Remember, we would try to watch like everything that was nominated, and it would be such a slog. There'd be so much stuff in there that we regretted watching. But through doing that exercise, you would occasionally stumble upon a movie that you never would have watched otherwise, and then you really kind of fell in love with it. I guess that's the Russian roulette that you play when you marathon or you try to like 100% movies.
Shazam! which transforms him in a flash into the mightiest of mortal beings, Captain Marvel.
Subscribe to Red Cow Entertainment on Patreon for full episodes every other week.